Welcome back to the Weathermatic Premier Partner Series. I'm Lex Mason, EVP of Sales at Weathermatic. Today I have the absolute pleasure of talking with my good friend Chris Lee of Earthworks. Earthworks operates around the DFW Metroplex and also in Houston, and man, Chris and his team have built an incredible organization. Really looking forward to sharing with you some of their tips and tricks. This is the Weathermatic Premier Partner Series. Well, cool. Well, hey, everybody, Chris Lee here. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Chris is the president of Earthworks here in Dallas, Texas. Now, I know you also have a location down there in Houston. You guys are growing like crazy. So, man, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we also have a relationship around a family business matter and working with different family members, but would love to hear a little bit of the Earthworks story, how you guys got started and how you got to where you are here today.
Sure. So it is like you said, family business, locally, family, privately owned. Started in 1979. My stepdad borrowed $1,500 from his mom. Bought a Jeep and a trailer, a push mower, a weed eater, blower, and started doing residential lawn care. Started mowing yards, essentially. At some point, probably in the mid '80s, one of the residential clients that he was working for also was a commercial property manager. He had a pretty good relationship. Decided to give him an opportunity to take on a couple of commercial jobs, and that seemed to work fairly well. Company kind of continued on like that for several years. In, I guess, 1998, he and I started talking a little bit. I was looking for a career change. I come from a sales and customer service background, not a landscape background. He was kind of at a point, he was always real quality driven landscape guy. Everything had to be perfect, real big on operational efficiency. But he hated to deal with people. Just the people part of it just killed him.
Oh, man.
And it killed us too, because if you got to him on the phone with the client, it was very obvious that that's not where he wanted to be and not what he wanted to be doing. So he and I had some conversations and kind of discussed the fact that, hey, the only thing really holding you back is the customer service end of it, and that's really what I'm good at. I'm used to getting yelled at. I've pretty thick skin. Maybe partner up and see what we can do with this thing. So in 1998, I came aboard. We were at the time pushing close to, we're probably 800,000 in revenue. About 30 employees, 25 employees, about 30 commercial clients. But we were doing things in a way that were very, very kind of rigid. It had to be the right client, had to be the right area, had to be the right size, had to be, we were really limiting our target market by being so selective on what we were willing to even bid. So we kind of relooked at that and thought, hey, there's ways to gain efficiency without it being a giant full day site. There's ways to be efficient on multiple sites during the day. Hey, it may not be an A+ class property, but they still might have a really nice budget. They still might be, really interested in taking good care of that B class asset or C+ class asset. So let's not shut the door on these opportunities. Let's take a look at them and make sense. See if they make sense. Being from a sales background, I kind of had that bigger picture perspective on networking and how connections make connections. And we had some good talks, and he gave me the kind of the latitude to run with it a little bit and to kind of restructure some things. And then I started, we're in the South, at the time, we've now got 3 offices in DFW, but at the time we were far south end of DFW, which is where I am today. And I signed a bunch of work up in Plano, which for those of you who don't know is a good solid hour and 45 minutes.
Oh yeah. That's past me.
But it was work with a really large management company in DFW, and my eye was on, hey, I don't care if we make any money on this. I don't care if we burn up windshield time. We've never had an opportunity this big to get in the door with somebody. And so again, all right, I'll give you a little leeway here, and So we did, and so then we managed to expand with that management company. We managed to expand geographically. One thing that's a little different about us is we don't have a business development team. We have one part-time business development person who essentially just tracks in incoming leads or referrals. So a lot of our growth happened around those areas. We get into a spot, we do a good job, people would start to notice, then the people next door would call, the people 3 doors down would call, and then all of a sudden we would start to aggregate sections of the Metroplex, which then in turn enabled us as we grew to move our locations closer to where the work was, rather than open a new office in a new area and hoping the work would come to us. We established, hey, the work's there, we've got it. Now let's put a facility that makes more sense, makes it more economical. That's kind of how we ended up initially. The Plano thing was where the Irving office came from. After we built the business up on the north end of town, the math worked out to essentially what we would save in windshield time and fuel would pay for a facility. So no brainer. Then a few years down the road, we kind of identified Garland as the next opportunity to catch the 75 corridor and catch Rockwall, Mesquite, that area a little more efficiently. And again, did the math and essentially the what we were spending in windshield time and gas is minus another 4 acres and another 14,000 square foot. So
oh, man,
that part of it's working out pretty well. One thing that I really think that helps us this is interesting. I was answering a question for an NALP article or interview. And one of the questions was, what does it mean to you to be a professional landscaper? And it never really kind of hit me full on, what we were trying to do until I read that. And I'm like, well, I think it's what we're trying to do. We're trying to differentiate ourselves in every way possible from the chuck in a truck, from the mow, blow, and glow guys, because there's not value. You can't create value around cutting grass and blowing it off. You can create value through interactions, through consultation, through going the extra mile, through bringing things to the table that help in ways that they didn't even know they had a problem with yet. Being more responsive, being more customer service oriented, not wearing cargo shorts and a t-shirt to a bid meeting. That I've seen it.
You'd think it's common sense, but apparently not.
The company before us walked out in board shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. But one of the things that we've always tried to do is and there's some great landscape companies out there, and there's always things that we can learn, but we've always tried to focus on not being like other companies, but setting our own tone to be a step above. We want our clients to expect more from us, and we want to give them more than what they're used to getting. And one of the ways we've done that, over the years is look at problems that maybe they don't necessarily know they have. It's kind of ironic because water management's a huge issue. And a lot of them don't necessarily know that it's an issue, even though they know inside their buildings that their toilets are problems, the running faucets are problems. They don't look outside. And I've been, since I got into this business in '98, one of the things that intrigued me the most was ET-based water management. Now, back then, 22, 23 years ago, there was one product. I don't know if I can say the name or not say the name. But MaxiCom was the deal.
Oh, yeah.
The one alternative for true site-based ET management. And then I thought I was going to change the world. I really did. I got involved. I learned it. I knew it. I loved it. I was passionate about it. And I was going to go light the world on fire with MaxiCom until I started hitting people with $50,000 and $60,000 and $70,000.
They missed it by that much.
Yeah. Shockingly, it was much harder to sell. I ever thought it was. People started asking me about ROIs and things. I'm like, no, but it's environmental. It's good.
But it'll be great.
Yeah, you save your money. Look, you can press buttons and things come on. It's so cool. So I learned that no matter how great an idea has to be, there's got to be value. There's got to be a mark where the benefits and the price cross, and it makes sense for everybody. And it was frustrating for a long time because that was just a huge void. There were no other options. But fortunately, with technology, everything used to be hardwired, which was a huge expense, and now there's multiple ways to communicate without wiring. You used to have to have a standalone computer system. You used to have to have your own weather station, weather satellite, high-end on-site. But you didn't have the weather satellite, the weather tracking companies that you can purchase data from like you do now. And through that evolution, we found that there are now, not only has it gone from being something that just absolutely wasn't affordable, there was no ROI that made sense at all, to something that's absolutely a no-brainer. It's something that really, if push comes to shove on an ROI, it's in a lot of cases, we can show people 6 to 8 months, return on their investment. And we've even taken it a step further, and if it's a client that's really engaged in taking care of their irrigation, they're actively inspecting it, they're actively taking care of it, we'll provide at no cost to them this water management system, which as you guys well know, we're partnered with WeatherMatic, and our preferred partner on that is WeatherMatic and the SmartLine system. It's been fantastic for us. One of the ways that we've been able to do this is because it is a special partnership. There is a special structure, which I won't necessarily get into today, but it's essentially a way that it's been made easy for us to incorporate something that makes us a better company for our clients. And honestly, one of the toughest parts of this was just getting people to believe that they were going to get all this for nothing. I mean, it really was. We sat in a meeting with all the higher ups for a big nationally traded REIT, and their marketing people, the decision makers, the operations makers. I gave them the whole proposal, like, what's it going to cost us? I'm like, it's not going to cost you anything. I'm just trying to explain to you what we're doing here.
What? Yeah.
And literally, they're like, no. What's
this isn't how the world works.
Yeah. What's the catch? I'm like, well, I guess if there is a catch, it's good for us too. Obviously, there's got to be. I'm not Win Rockefeller. I'm not, not made of money. I don't just pass out stuff for fun. But there is operational benefits for us. If I can reset your controller without sending 2 guys in a truck across town, that saves me money, which is a lot of that stuff, depending on your contract. I mean, we're contracted to make seasonal adjustments all year long. We may be out there 8 or 10 times making adjustments to just to the typical settings, much less new color water end programs, new landscape water end programs. Hey, we're striping the parking lot on Friday. Can you shut the water off and come back and turn it back on Monday? So yeah, there's absolutely benefit in it for us, but that's all there is. There is no other trick. And they sat around and kind of looked at each other and looked back at me, and it's all very confusing. And they're like, okay, well, we've worked together for a long time. If that's what you're saying you're going to do, I guess we're good with it. And then the funny thing was, as soon as that came out, the 3 marketing people in the room just went crazy. Like they thought this was going to be the greatest thing in the world. We're so green now. They love, which is another thing that I love about specifically WeatherMatic and the partnership is the Water with Purpose program, and they were huge on the fact that you guys are bringing through technology and through your partnerships with local people water to people that don't have clean drinking water, and that was a huge deal to them. Not only it's the right thing to do to help the world perspective, but also a great marketing piece for them. And they were the most excited people in the room, even more excited than the guy that gets bonused on saving your
Yeah. That's funny.
But that's just one example. It's been a little bit of a mindset change even internally. Some of our guys are like, why are we doing this for free? Well, we're really not doing it for free. I mean, it's not costing them anything, but it's not costing us anything either. And it is a market differentiator. If I tell you I can manage not only your landscape, but I can manage your water, most people are like, what do you mean manage my water? You mean fix my irrigation? I'm like, no.
It's still not even, and that's a thing that I've had to, that's been a challenge, right? Is that conversation right there is that the two budgets now with water and landscape are almost dollar for dollar. I mean, they're getting close to catching up. And when you only can address half of that equation, I mean, today versus 10 years ago, I mean, it's half landscape and it's half water. And that's where we've seen, Earthworks. I mean, you guys have been able to educate your customers that there really are two decisions that you've got to make when you are choosing a landscape company now versus just, hey, who can give me the lowest bid on landscape? It's not just about that anymore.
And you and I both know low bid is never the least expensive way to go.
No. And that's it. Let me ask, pivot a little bit with me into your internal teams and how they've responded really to your investment in this technology. What's been kind of the onboarding time for them to kind of learn? Old dogs don't like new tricks typically. So what's been the onboarding time? How have you seen them kind of adapt to this new technology and really kind of master it?
It probably took us, and maybe we're slow, but it really probably took us a year and a half to get the right internal pitch, to get the right consensus. And frankly, I'm a guy by nature that I like buy-in. I don't like to tell people what we're going to do. I don't like to tell people this is where we're going. I may try to influence how they come to their decision on where we're going, but it finally got to the point where I think at one point I just said, look, this is what we're doing. Get after it. We're doing it. We're not going back. We're not talking about it anymore. Just go. Trust me on this one. It's going to work out. And then of course there's all but we don't have time to install the controllers. Well, we did, and we got through it all. And, we're still installing controllers. Matter of fact, I think I saw 6 go out of here this morning for somewhere.
Oh, wow.
They're going.
There you go.
But really where the buy-in came was when the benefits came. When all of a sudden the irrigation manager, we're past the pain point of installing all this equipment and setting it up. And anything new, there's always some glitches at first, and you got to go back and tweak this and tweak the settings. But once all that was done, and they literally can tell the rep here the watering program's up on these 6 deals, go change it. They're not dispatching their crews. It takes so much pressure off of those operation guys. That was where they bought in. And then where the reps bought in was, frankly, my gosh, I can pull up to the front of the property. It looks like the color's not doing too good on the left side of the island. I pick my phone up, hit a couple buttons, and I see, there's a ladder line leak. None of the heads have pressure. And it's done. The problem solved. I'm not walking 3 buildings away looking for a controller that's not there, and then trying to figure out which zone waters what.
And then get another phone call that's urgent.
And the irrigation guy who doesn't have time to talk to you right now. Or doesn't answer his phone because he's in a hole full of mud, and and the problem solved. And same thing. We pushed a lot of, as irrigation gets busier and busier, we push a lot of little things back off onto the reps, like some of the seasonal adjustments they were doing. They don't have to do that anymore, except from their phone, which is a piece of cake. Same thing, if they're driving through the property and things look a little dry, they fire up the zones, everything's working right, you can go ahead and up it to 110%, 120%, whatever they need to do, or run a cycle. Maybe it's been a hot 3 days, and the mow day was yesterday, so we just suspended water yesterday and today, and it just needs a good drink of water until the system kicks on tomorrow. They can run the zones manually and watch it run. We have one guy who loves when the manager calls and says, "Hey, I don't think the water's coming on." So I'm like, "Well, step outside." Well, you just tell them step outside. I'm going to turn on the zone on the left side of the office. And he'll turn it on, and it's I guess it is coming on. It must just be really hot out here.
Yeah, and that's been one thing that I really didn't anticipate, right? Because you don't know all of the different things that are going to come into play when you truly get to that level of being almost full. I mean, you guys are almost all completely converted, but it's been the account rep that I didn't anticipate, is that now that reliance of the account rep on the irrigation tech, it's made them a little more self-sufficient to be able to get those quick answers. Because irrigation in the summer, where you and I both live here in the Dallas Metroplex, when it's hot, and you can tell it on the landscape. It's like an overnight, someone flips the switch and stuff starts burning up. And that is every single year, those crazy phone calls from everyone just bombard the account reps. And then the techs are like, man, I've only got so many hours. Mm-hmm. And so we've seen that be a really interesting dynamic that we didn't expect at first, is that it gives non-irrigators a very easy kind of translation into, hey, when you get these phone calls, you've now got an app for that, right? You have a way to respond to that and solve your customer's problem. without having to get on the irrigators, list for today.
I think one great thing that is great for the clients and great for us as well, because anybody that's a landscape contractor or been a landscape contractor for a while knows when something dies, it's your fault. No matter what happens.
Doesn't matter.
A bomb could go off and it's the landscaper's fault. But just getting notifications daily on, valve problems, shorts and wires, this zone's not coming on, this isn't happening. Normally, prior to this, how we found out? Either as an angry customer call or the account manager would walk out on site and go, oh my God, this thing is burnt. What are we going to do? And now we know, hey, get a tech out here. Zone 3 didn't come on last night. Okay. Problem is solved before the landscape dies, which is that's not to get off base a little bit, but so that's really been kind of one of our not necessarily pitches, but we have some clients that prefer to buy the equipment outright. We don't necessarily work with them all in contract with the maintenance.
Yeah.
But one of the big selling points to us and to our clients is capital preservation. Houston, and it's interesting being in two different markets. Houston, it's all about water savings. It rains a lot. They don't have water restrictions. Very tropical.
And their water's expensive.
You can kill water.
Not hard to save money in Houston.
It's the easiest thing in the world. DFW is a little different because we do have water restrictions. At times they're more arduous than others. But what systems like this allow us to do and allow our clients to benefit from is the fact that you can set it up with the water windows. It knows how much time it has. It can allocate water effectively during that window so that you preserve as much of what you've got as you can. I mean, there's times we get landscape or we get irrigation restrictions. It's just, hey, stuff's going to die. A few years back, we got hit with 1 day every 2 weeks. Well, guess what? There's nothing you can do but watch your
nothing. Yeah.
But when we're on 2 days a week and things like that, it becomes so much more critical to allocate that water properly, not to water the same areas over and over and completely neglect the back of the property because it never gets that far in the cycle. So the great thing about this is we're able to, to manage those windows and make sure we know what's getting water, what's not getting water, where the biggest deficiencies are, and kind of stay ahead of the game that way. And so really it's, to me at least, one of the biggest benefits here in DFW is the capital preservation. So it's still saving money. It's just not necessarily, it's less savings on the water bill and more on the capital preservation.
Oh yeah. Because if you look at the cost of a landscape, this is the thing that I think you taught me this not too long ago. It was when you look at the landscape there, right? That's property that's 10, 15, even 20 years old, right? If you were to bid out, what would be the cost to replace the entire landscape, right? And you look at that as an asset. A lot of people look at it as, I need you to come cut my grass, right? That are new to the property management world. And you're going, and you guys are having to educate on, hey, the value of, if this thing burned up tomorrow, if there was a fire, if there was, the irrigation system just shut off, if you just shut it off, there was actually a big national client that shut off all irrigation. It was a pharmacy store. They just shut off all irrigation because the person who made that decision, I don't know who made that decision, but they killed every single landscape on like 250 branch locations. And we're driving by them going like, that was not the best decision in the world.
No,
but anyway, the value on the landscape itself is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is I love the water piece. I love the water savings that can be generated, but one tree, one acre of turf grass.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 expense. Killing that.
Well, 1 or 2 zones can go out and cause $10,000 worth of damage if it's not addressed easily.
Oh yeah,
easily. Yeah.
And here in the summer, I mean, it's a 3 week. I mean, that can happen in two to 3 weeks in the summer.
It can happen from one account rep visit to the next. I mean, if it quit working the day before the guy got there, and he does, or the girl, whichever we may be talking about, and it's 2 weeks before they get back on that site, they may leave a site that's green and looks pretty good and come back to a site that looks like a desert.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, I'll wrap up with this. If you were to, and this is kind of the big question I wanted to ask is, what would be your message to a prospective, property manager, property owner when evaluating the difference between choosing a company that is landscape and water management versus a, solely a landscape company? What's the message to them? How are you approaching that to educate the difference there?
Well, I mean, really just you said a lot of the stuff that you guys have helped us with, just explaining, helping them understand. Really, we try to frame it initially with everyone's familiar with all the retrofits they've done in their buildings and how, that it's been a huge push. They've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on faucets and plumbing fixtures and toilets and valves and light bulbs and all these things to save money inside. And so for us, we just kind of go, you get them, that's what they understand. Go, you have that same opportunity or even bigger outside. And so as a landscape company, we want, it helps us manage your landscape, one, if we can manage your water. Because we don't want to overwater, we don't want to underwater. Both of those things kill plants. We're there to keep plants alive and keep them growing. And not to get too far off base, but there's been a push for separate water management companies that only will manage water. That has to be the most awful idea I've ever heard in my life. You're going to take a company that's incentivized to not water your property and put them in charge of keeping your $1 million worth of plants alive.
It's never made sense.
Paid $60,000 a year to keep your plants alive. Let's not trust him to do it. I mean, it puts both people at just loggerheads. We want things to look good. They want to save money. The more money they save, the more money they get paid. And I don't understand how anybody buys into that concept when they can have one person that there's no finger pointing. There's no whose fault is it. It's my fault if something goes wrong. And I'm incentivized to take care of your property and make it look beautiful, because if I don't, that's what gets me fired. Not spending not using your water, making your property look bad is what gets me fired. And what's going to happen is if you hire an outside water management company, I'm going to get fired. Your property's not going to look good.
It's not going to look good. And that's been the kicker right there, is that these, there's a lot of third-party companies that are popping up because of the opportunity around water savings is so big that entire companies are being formed just to do that. And that's really where I think the NALP, those professional landscape companies that are taking that next step, that are looking to differentiate themselves and grow, man, they could not model themselves after someone better than you guys. So, I appreciate everything that you've done for pushing the industry as a whole forward. Through technology, not just technology, but through technology, through service. I love your focus on difference makers, right? It can be different to differentiate on how you cut grass. But when you start to pull in other things into it, like I love how you guys grow, 90% of all the ornamental, the color. That's incredible. When I saw the images of your greenhouses and everything like that, it's something like that. It's something like the approach to, hey, 50% of your budget's being spent on water and 50%'s on landscape. Why don't you choose someone that can manage both versus choosing one and not managing the other thing? So anyway, you guys have continued to separate yourselves from the kind of the general market, and we look forward to continuing to help you push the envelope there.
One more thing, if you don't mind.
Please.
Just jog my memory a little bit, and this is another really kind of intended but unintended consequence. I was talking to one of our account managers the other day for humanity, probably our biggest account. And they'd come at us with, they're fully installed with WeatherMatic SmartLink products. They keep coming to us with probably these oddball things that they want us to do. That's not necessarily something we do, but something we can do. It's not so far out of our realm that, gosh, we're not going to be effective at it. We're not going to be able to do it. The account manager's like, well, why do you keep taking on all this stuff? And this is kind of some of the beauty of the SmartLink program as well. I said, because I want it to be so convoluted that they don't know where they end and where we begin.
I love that.
I want the thought of breaking up with us to be so daunting and so overwhelming that it just goes away.
Absolutely.
And he's like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, okay, now to work.
That's it. I love that, because it's that stickiness.
When they're looking at other competitors, we're going through this right now. They're like, well, we're bringing this up, trying to get the same scope from another competitor, and we can't find anybody who will match your scope. I'm like, well, I guess that solves your problem.
I have done my job. I have done my job.
Yeah. You know, so that's it. You know, just one more thing that you know wasn't necessarily part of the plan, but it is now.
That is, and I tell you what, we've had it. I mean, and you've had it too, and other partners of ours have had it where, you know, they do write that breakup letter, and they start seeing, okay, a month goes by, a quarter goes by, half a year goes by. Oh my gosh, we've spent in 6 months with this new company that I'm sure has all the best intentions in the world, right? But we've spent as much in 6 months on water than what we spent with Earthworks and water last year. What's going on? What's broken? And there's nothing broken. It's just when you leave, there's a level of service that leaves with you, that difference maker. That's yours.
People realize that. You know, we go out of our way when we do get the breakup letter to make sure they understand, hey, look, there's no hard feelings. We understand. We're here for you. And it's shocked me. We actually started sending out a we're not mad at you letter, like kind of a little letter that, you know, 30 or 60 days afterwards. Just want you to know, no hard feelings. We still love you. We actually miss you. If you ever change your mind, we're here for you. And when we started doing that, it blew me away how many calls we'd get and go, I've been miserable for the last 3 months. This new company's terrible, but I thought you guys would be mad, so I didn't want to call you back. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You thought I'd be mad? You wanted to do
no. I'm not in middle school. I promise. Yeah.
So that is absolutely true, and we see it time and time again. You know, hey, yeah, it wasn't as green as we thought, so we're back over here.
The grass was not greener on the other side. Well, hey man, it's great to see you. Hope you and Zach and the rest of the crew are doing well. It's been a pleasure catching up with you. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Have a great day. Tell Mike I said,
all right, buddy.